Hi Year 5, good afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. Here we are again to do a little bit of reading for pleasure. Before we start, don't be alarmed, I am Mr Mills, I'm not an imposter. Mrs Mills just thought it was a good idea to give me a really short lockdown haircut. Let's not even go there, let's just start the reading. So we finished yesterday with looking at lists of dreams and ambitions. I wonder if you came up with some of your own. Let's have a look at chapter 2 now. What's holding me back? Did you know that 2/3 of kids in school today will end up doing a job that hasn't yet been invented? That is truly mind-boggling. And do you know what else? On average, you'll probably have at least 17 different jobs in your lifetime. But don't worry, you won't have to do them all at the same time. The world around us is changing fast. It's no wonder that we sometimes feel anxious about how we fit in. We question whether we are smart enough. We get a bit scared to have a go in case we look stupid. And sometimes it's tempting to quit before we've even tried having a go at something. Lots of anxieties and worries can hold us back. So let's take a look and see how we can overcome them. Because it's good to be ready. Prepped, confident, on fire. We need to find our confidence to deal with all the changes and challenges that life can bring. The choices are yours. As well as standing on podiums and having my picture in the newspaper, the journey I went on, and I don't mean the time I got on the wrong bus and ended up in Bergen, Germany, rather than Bergen, Norway, more on that later, changed me in so many ways. Here are some of the things I learned along the way. No one is born with a table tennis bat in their hand, a calculator in their head, or Mandarin as their second language. Getting good at something takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. In fact, especially not overnight. I usually sleep. Becoming awesome at something takes time. Becoming a world champion takes even longer. Everyone that learns to become good at something has made loads, and I mean loads of mistakes. Here is an example. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeeded. That was a quote from Michael Jordan, the uber successful former basketball player who is never put off by failure. Makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, back to our list. No one wants to admit how hard they practice, so don't believe anyone who tells you they are effortlessly brilliant or clever. They're probably lying. I don't instantly give up when things get hard. Just because something is difficult doesn't mean I am rubbish and should stop trying. It often just means I haven't found the right strategy, the equivalent of Omega and Mr. Charters, quite yet. I can't be good at everything. I mean, there are definitely a lot of things I could be better at if I actually practiced them. I tried to mend my skateboard once. I fixed the king pin, but 2 wheels fell off. DIY skateboard mechanics are not recommended. But there are only 24 hours in a day. Of course, I'm still as likely as the next person to sleepily put my pants on back to front first thing in the morning. I'm only human, after all, but I still find it amazing to think that small decisions we make about whether or not to give up or on something difficult can have such a big impact on our lives. It would have been very easy in my case to have turned back on the table tennis because I was rubbish at it. And believe me, I was bad. But I didn't. I set my mind to it, persevered, improved my skills, and set off on my journey to become the very best I could be. So before we look at ways to take on our new challenges, let's look at what might be holding us back. What might give us, or what might make us give up when things get a bit hard. I can tell you from my experience that overcoming these obstacles can make you stronger. Nope, I'm not good at that. The world can be a big, confusing place for sure. But our own minds and bodies are even more confusing. For a start, did you know that there are more life forms currently living on your skin than there are people on the planet? Supporting that ecosystem is a challenge in itself. And that's before we've even begun to try and find our place in the world of social media, exams and friendship groups. So starting something new or trying something hard can seem like a whole pile of extra effort. We've all been there. When faced with something tricky, it's just so easy to go, nah, in order to avoid giving it a shot and risk the shame of failing badly. But you're never going to fulfill your potential if you're scared to even try. So, to understand why we do this, let's take a closer look inside the human brain. Imagine if you could really actually do that. Imagine if you could really look inside the slimy, jelly-like minds of your friends. I dread to think what you'd see there. Physically, the human brain is extremely fragile. It weighs the same as a large cantaloupe melon and has the texture of squishy minced beef. I'm thinking you're probably not going to want spaghetti bolognese or melon for dinner after this. But from an emotional perspective, our brains can be pretty fragile too, and sometimes it's our thoughts and worries that can sabotage us and hold us back. So what runs through your mind when you think about trying something new? Something you know might push you out of your comfort zone and be a bit hard. Number 1, fear of looking foolish. A good friend of mine used to tell me that she wanted to be famous. She wanted to be in films, Star Wars particularly. I didn't think that it was a bad shout. She was dangerously capable with a toy lightsaber, so I was pretty sure that if the part of Princess Leia's sister ever came up, she'd get it. But she knew that breaking into a major Hollywood movie from her bungalow in Reading wasn't going to be easy. So she decided to start the process with a part in the school Christmas nativity. I admired her. I was too nervous to even go to the audition, so I didn't and ended up in the audience instead. And I was quite jealous when her name appeared in the programme on the big opening night. Emma Smith, the second camel. It was all set to be a great night. Her dad had borrowed the costume from a friend at work, 2 humps since you ask, and her parents, my parents and I sat together in the front row. Emma was playing second camel. She had 5 lines. 2 of them had to be sung. There were 4 camels in total. Camel 1 was the main camel. She had 8 lines. Camel 3 and Camel 4 didn't have any lines. I wasn't really sure what the point of them was, to be honest. Halfway through the show, the moment arrived. The music built. Camel 1 sang her lines at pitch perfect, and then it was Emma's turn. But she looked at me just as she was about to open her mouth, and I could tell something was seriously wrong. I could see the tremor in her eyes, and I just knew she couldn't remember the words. Like a maniac, I started furiously mouthing them back at her. I was word perfect because we'd been practicing them in between breaks at Omega for the last 3 months. But the lights were dazzling her eyes, and she couldn't see my frantic offer to help. So she froze, standing completely still in front of 200 people, 3 other camels, Joseph and Mary, the works. The music teacher played the tune again to give her another chance, but Emma had lost her nerve. She was overcome with fear. Camel 1 came to her rescue and belted out the lines, and then the song moved on. Most of the audience hardly noticed, but Emma was so upset. The dream of Hollywood stardom was looking a lot less likely now. And at the end of the scene, she raced off stage so fast she crashed into the lighting tower and crushed her second hump. Her dad was not popular at work when he had to give the costume back. All in all, it wasn't a great night for her. Emma really took it to heart. She felt like a fool, a failure. It was a whole month before she could even bring herself to look Camel 1 in the eye. Camel 4 couldn't stop himself from telling her that he would have done a much better job. In fact, that was almost Emma's last foray into the show business. She found it really hard to think about ever giving up or getting up on stage again, let alone dressing up. But she was determined that that wouldn't be the end of it. The following year, the school production was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, so Emma put her fears to one side and went to the audience. She wanted the big part, the one with the fancy coat, but annoyingly, Camel 4 got that. She got back out there though and faced her fears, and this time she nailed it. I suspect that on some level everyone can relate to this story. Putting yourself out there, taking a risk, it's a scary business. Have you ever decided not to put your hand up in case your question is a stupid one? Or perhaps you've always been told that you're a super talented runner, but one sports day you're on the start line for the 100 metres and the opposition seem a little tough. Like they've been training with Usain Bolt. You'd rather not break your winning streak, so you decide to stage a tummy ache. This has to be better than the humiliation of coming last, surely. Much better to blend in with everyone else than to risk people laughing. It is entirely natural to want to fit in. So, the moral of this is, never borrow a camel costume. And be brave. You don't get good at stuff if you are so worried about looking foolish that you don't go to the audience or you never ask a question. You don't improve if you pull out of the race when you see the competition. You'll never learn anything new that way. Number 2. Everyone loves a success story. When people win talent show on the television, we rate them for their skill they've shown on stage. Whether they're singing, dancing, or making things vanish into thin air, we see a faultless performance and refuse to believe that we could ever do the same thing. Why is this? What is it about everyone from top sportsmen and women to pop stars that make us think we couldn't hope to be anything like them? The answer is very simple, because the fact is, when we see them perform, we're only looking at the end result of a huge amount of hard work. We're watching them with success goggles on. Whether it's learning the violin, swimming, schoolwork, or BMXing, we don't see how much time and dedication they've put into becoming really good at it. Nor do we see all the mistakes they've made along the way. Instead, we focus on the finished product, assume it must be down to some natural, born talent or gift, and write off our chances of following in their footsteps without even trying. What's more, when people achieve something big, they tend to bask in the glory of the moment. Often, they are reluctant to admit just how much work they have put into getting there. It can take away from the fairy tale ending, after all, but sadly, it masks the reality. That amazing feat of awesomeness takes masses of practice to perfect. we'll leave it there for today. Interesting, isn't it? Watching through success goggles and refusing to believe how much hard work goes into something. I bet you have done the same. I have. But it's about hard work and determination and effort every single day to build your confidence and build your understanding to get to be as good as you can be. Our school value. See you tomorrow for another bit of You Are Awesome.